Welcome back to Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA. Today's episode, powered by Perfect Sports Nutrition, is all about creating right angles. All right, today we're getting out our protractors and we're talking about angles, but more specifically, we're talking about angling to the right. It's one of my biggest pet peeves when I start seeing advanced intermediate fighters only circling one way, setting strikes up one way. It's easy to step to the left, right? If you're an orthodox fighter, using that lead foot to create that left angle easier. But for some reason, going to the right, we don't do as much. It's a little bit more difficult. So I'm gonna try to make it a little bit easier for you. Okay, so let's get into some of the details. The first detail we need to talk about is why and how do you set up that right angle? Now, if I just sit here with Matt and we're lined up, if I just shoot on this angle, right, what's gonna happen? Well, two things. One, Matt's gonna throw a strike because I didn't set it up, so I come here, boom, I get hit. Or if I don't set up the angle and I move, Matt just exits out the other way. So I come here, he's gone. Right? So I have to be able to set up the angle. That's the first thing. Too many times I see fighters chasing that angle. So they're coming here and then all of a sudden the opponent's gone and you have to create this big movement, right? So first thing you got to do is set it up. So first way, the easiest way I find and the safest way is using it as a draw attack. Now, if I'm drawing Matt in, drawing him in, and he's coming with a forward pressure, I can take my angle into attack. So versus his forward pressure is my time. So Matt crashes me hard, I angle out and I attack. Last thing I want to do is end up being pushed back and shelled. So as that pressure comes, I create my angle and I attack, okay? So that's the first way, using it with a draw, drawing them in. As that pressure comes, I take that angle. The second way to set up this right angle is using it offensively. So if I want to get that angle, I need to make sure Matt's shelled up. So first thing I'll do is I'll throw some punches, kicks, anything to be able to get him to shell. Once he's shelled up, I take my angle and I can attack. That is the key, okay? So one, drawing them in with the zombie, take my angle versus the forward pressure. The second one, I shell them up. Next thing you know, I'm on my right angle. They can't see me. I get my knockout. Now, before we get into how to create the right angle, let's talk about the punches that you do want to throw once you get to that angle. So Matt in his fight stance with his hands nice and high. Now, ideally, when I take my angle, I like to position myself here where our feet create the letter T. This is called T-stancing someone. So Matt makes the line, I make the top of the letter T. Now, from this T-stance, someone who uses this really well is like a Lomachenko. He kind of spins around, angle shuffles around you to get the angles. But from this T-stance, basically now your forearms are in between his lead hand. This is where you want to be. So now my main priority punches through the guard with my hook, and you can see that perfect shot right behind the ear, right on the temple. Now, what I like to say is this position here, right? Ideally, if I punch this way, you can see I can't get my thumb in and it doesn't land as well. So when I'm on this angle and I want to punch behind that ear, I put my thumb between the crease of the forearm and the bicep. Next thing you know, watch, it goes right through. Bang. Okay, so that's my shot. Once I get my T-stance, I create those punches through the guard, okay? T-stance, punch through the guard, behind the ear are my two shots, okay? Now, we're going to talk about different ways to get there now to be able to land those punches. So, the first one we're going to talk about is stepping into that position, right? So, what I do is I step, okay? Back foot comes over, and I pivot my feet. That's one of the most simple ways. Step and turn your feet. Okay? Now, like I said, I want us to always set them up. So the easiest way to set up angle changes are that nice light punches. Okay, I use my jab. Next thing you know, I turn and I'm punching on this angle, right? My favorite way is hooks, right? And jab. So when I jab and then when I load, I use my hook as I take that angle, okay? So if I'm 1, 2, 1, set up, hook right down the middle, okay? That's one of my favorite shots when I'm doing the step out, okay? So right here, boom, I step here. I make a nice 90-degree, punch through the guard, punch behind the ear. Now, you notice those who've been following my channel and those who are signed up to bazookatraining.com, you realize I always say don't cross your feet when you're box stepping, right? I don't want to see none of this because your balance, your structure, you can't counter, there's no power from there. But a lot of boxers and stuff cross their feet when they create this angle. So what they'll do is they'll step here. If they're feinting with their shoulders, they feint, and see how they step across. Okay, this helps load up a little bit smoother transition to that right angle. It's not as jumped, it's not as, big movement. It's a little bit more subtle, right? So if I'm punching here and I'm using my feinting, next thing you know, I'm over here. Now the benefit of this type of movement is you see my shoulders automatically put me in a position to get power. So when I just stepped out here, boom, I'm here and then I'm throwing. But watch this, shoulder turns here. I stepped, look at the loading. I'm here, and then it just helps me create that body momentum to get and generate that power once you get that angle, okay? So stepping out in that direction. Now, the other one, the second way is the spring, right? Fast, right? One of the best to do this, I find lately in mixed martial arts, is Wonderboy Thompson. He loves this one, right? He goes 1, 2, angle out, boom, throws on that angle. It's nice and long, it's safe, it's set up, it's fast, it's quick, and it allows him to enter and exit really nicely. Boom, he's out, in, out, right? It's fast, it's explosive, it's springing off the rear calf, right? So 1, the step out. And then we have the spring out, boom, to create that angle. Now, the last one, which is the most difficult, is the diamond step, okay? Now, what the diamond step is you have to momentarily shift your stance, okay? So right now I'm in an orthodox stance. I could step to it or kind of skip to it, right? So this is my step. I step on a 45 and I get low, okay? My head's offline here, boom. Now from here, I'm gonna switch my feet and they're gonna replace each other and I'm gonna turn my shoulder. Okay, now look, I'm back in my orthodox stance, okay? So orthodox, I step outside to get away from that punch. I'm momentarily in a southpaw position. My feet replace itself and boom. All of a sudden, I'm back in an orthodox position in my 90-degree right angle, okay? So the stepping out to it. So now, more advanced, I try to do this little step off of a punch. So Matt jabs, boom. I come here. Now look, I switch my feet, bang, bang. I got my angle. So jabs again, step. Now, when I mentioned earlier, I can gallop to it, I can skip to it. So instead of stepping, right, I might do it stationary where I just drop step. See that? Boom. Now from here, I go over. So the big difference would be say Matt's moving backwards quickly. I might step this way to close distance faster. That's one. Say Matt's staying stationary now and he doesn't move. I might use this one, right? Just like a switch kick. If they move, you step, boom. If they don't move, you just switch your feet. So Matt moves, I step, close the distance faster. If Matt stays stationary, I skip, bang, bang, right? But you get to that right angle, you find those punches on those angles, you T-stance them. That's the most success, okay? So, fighters, change it up. Don't always circle to the left, create right angles. I think the beautiful thing about angles is confusing your opponent. Sometimes go left once, go left twice, go left 3 times, but then you got to mix in the right angle. So confusing them in which direction you're going to go, which direction you're attacking from, all makes it that much better. Now, going to these angles, the one last point I want to make before I leave you here is making sure you understand hand frames and pins. I talked about them before, but there's a lot of details to it. So for example, say I'm switching here. See how I use hand frames to keep this hand pinned? It's one of those most efficient things you can do. First thing I said is don't switch your feet and walk into punches right away. So if I step here, he's gonna hit me, right? So I have to be able to, one, feint, create some strikes, do something. But if I'm not sure, I might punch. See, I didn't punch, but I used it as a hand frame. I switched my feet with that little drop step, diamond step. I hand framed, and then I hand framed again to create that position. Now I punch, boom, 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 hand frame. Okay, so using hand pins and frames just takes it up to a next level, right? There's so much levels to this game, but that just shows you and teases you. So if you want to learn more about these types of concepts, head over to bazookatraining.com, and then all of a sudden, you get all this learning, all this defense, this angling. It's all taught to you in concept with drills, okay? $9.99 a month, 4 videos a week. You can't beat that, okay? Learn all of this stuff at a higher level. We also want to make sure we thank the channel sponsors, Perfect Sports Nutrition, code Bazooka20 to get all your supplements, 20% off, courtesy of myself. You have HayabusaFight.com for the nice T3 line. That double wrist protection, I'm telling you, has been amazing on my hands and knuckles. Last but not least, BazookaShop.com, which I'm not wearing a Bazooka shirt today, but head over to BazookaShop.com. And Bazooka Training that I just mentioned. Only $9.99 a month, guys. It's a steal. Support Bazooka Kickboxing and learn and progress every single day. I can guarantee you there's no other channel, there's no other website giving you this much knowledge, information, and fight on cue on one site for this price. Okay? We'll see you next time here at Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA. Boom!
Over 1 year in lockdown, an empty gym, a divided community, many questions unanswered.
They're doing the best they can, trying to save their business.
But on one man's 36th birthday, he decided to fight back. Subscribe now for only $9.99 USD a month. BazookaTraining.com